Welcome back to Crime Podcastle for our Unsolved Mystery Series, Episode 33. Get ready, because we are diving into a case that chilled Mumbai to the bone back in 2011, the Chauhan family murders.
It's a case that even after all this time feels like a puzzle with a few pieces missing. A family just living their lives and then suddenly gone.
Exactly. We're talking about Kishore Chauhan, his wife Reshma, and their teenage daughter Preeti. The seemingly normal family in the Mumbai suburb of Santacruz. And I think that's what makes this case so unsettling, right? The contrast between their ordinary lives and then the brutal way it all ended. It's like a nightmare.
Absolutely. It's that stark contrast, the one that really makes this case stick with you. The Chauhans weren't involved in anything risky or high profile. Kishore was a businessman well respected by all accounts, so why them? It's the question everyone asks.
Okay, so let's try to paint a picture for our listeners. What do we know about the Chauhans? What was their life like before this tragedy?
From what investigators could gather, Kishore was actually quite successful in his business dealings. He was known for his dedication and work ethic. They seemed like a tight-knit family, enjoying a comfortable life in a good neighborhood. You know, the kind of picture-perfect family setup that makes the crime even harder to comprehend.
It's almost like the more normal they were, the more disturbing this crime becomes.
Yeah.
Because it makes you wonder if it could happen to them. Could it happen to anyone?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just shatters that illusion of safety we all try to maintain.
All right, so let's fast forward to that fateful day, October 5th, 2011. Take us through what happened. How was this horrific scene discovered?
Well, it all started with the neighbors. They noticed a very unusual quietness coming from the Chauhan residence, which wasn't like them at all. And there was this unsettling odor that started to permeate the air. Concerned, they went to check on the family, but there was no answer.
Oh, wow.
No response to their knocks, no signs of life.
So at this point, they knew something was wrong.
They knew something was terribly wrong. The police were called, and when they arrived, well, they were met with a bloodbath. All three members of the Chauhan family were found dead inside their home. The scene was gruesome evidence of a brutal and violent attack.
That's just chilling. Do we know anything about the nature of the attack itself? Was there anything about the crime scene that stood out to investigators?
The sheer brutality of the attack suggests a level of rage that's almost unimaginable. But it wasn't just a random act of violence. What struck the investigators was the level of premeditation involved. The scene was meticulously staged, indicating the killers took their time. This was a planned, deliberate act, and that's what makes it all the more terrifying.
Wait, so not only was it a brutal attack, but the crime scene itself was arranged. That detail sends shivers down my spine. Was there any speculation about why the killers might have done that? Did they want to send a message?
That's the puzzle that everyone was trying to solve. The way the bodies were positioned, the specific details of the scene, it all seemed deliberate, almost symbolic. But the meaning behind it, the message they were trying to convey, that remains a complete mystery to this day. It's like a taunt from the grave, a question that continues to haunt everyone involved in the case.
Okay, hold on a second. If this was such a meticulously planned attack, wouldn't the killers have forced their way into the house? I mean, that's usually the first thing you look for, right?
You would think so, wouldn't you? But here's the catch. There was no sign of forced entry. The doors were locked, the windows were intact. This detail throws a massive wrench into the investigation because it suggests two unsettling possibilities. Either the Chauhans knew their attackers and let them in willingly, or the attackers found a way to enter undetected, which implies a level of skill and premeditation that is truly disturbing.
Wow. So right off the bat, we've got a chilling staged crime scene, no forced entry, and absolutely no clue as to who would want to do this to the Chauhans. It's like a detective's worst nightmare,
Yeah.
a puzzle box with no obvious starting point.
Precisely. And this is exactly what makes the Chauhan family murders so fascinating and so incredibly frustrating. We're left grappling with the why this family, why this way? It's a question that echoes through every detail of the case.
I can only imagine the shockwaves this sent through the community.
Yeah.
This wasn't just a random act of violence. It felt calculated, personal targeted.
Absolutely. The fact that such a brutal crime could happen in a seemingly safe and quiet neighborhood like Santacruz sent a wave of fear and uncertainty through the entire community, and that fear was amplified by the lack of answers. Everyone was asking the same questions. Who could have done this and why?
So with all these unknowns, how did the police even begin to approach this investigation? What were the initial leads they focused on?
Given Kishore's prominent role in the business world, investigators naturally started by looking into his professional life. Could there be a disgruntled business associate, someone who felt cheated or wronged, or perhaps a deal gone sour leading to a violent confrontation? It was a logical starting point.
It makes sense. Successful businessmen often have their share of rivals or people who might want to exploit them. Did the police find anything suspicious in Kishore's business dealings?
Here's where it gets interesting. Despite extensive interviews with colleagues, associates, and competitors, the investigators found no evidence of any serious disputes or conflicts in Kishore's business dealings. Everyone they spoke to described him as honest, hardworking, and well-respected. There was simply no smoking gun in his professional life.
So that's a dead end then.
Yeah.
But what about the lack of forced entry? Surely that had to point them in a different direction, away from business rivals and towards someone closer to the family.
That's exactly where their attention shifted. The absence of forced entry strongly suggested that the killer or killers were known to the family, someone they would have willingly let into their home. It was a disturbing possibility, but they had to follow the evidence.
So instead of focusing on shady business deals, they had to turn their attention to the Chauhan's inner circle, friends, family, close acquaintances. That must have been an incredibly difficult and emotionally charged aspect of the investigation.
Absolutely. Can you imagine the pressure on the investigators? They had to delicately navigate a web of relationships trying to uncover any hidden resentments, secrets, or motives that might have led to such a horrific act. It was like walking a tightrope, trying to uncover the truth without unjustly accusing those who are already grieving.
And did they find anything? Was there anyone in their close circle who had a motive strong enough to commit such a heinous act?
That's the truly perplexing part. Despite their best efforts, the interviews yielded no clear motives. The people closest to the Chauhans, their friends, extended family, neighbors, were all genuinely devastated and bewildered by the crime. They painted a picture of a loving family with no apparent conflicts or hidden dramas.
So we've got a successful businessman with no obvious enemies in his professional life and a seemingly loving family with no apparent conflicts in their personal lives. It's like a giant jigsaw puzzle where half the pieces are missing.
Exactly. And just when you think the puzzle can't get any more complex, another theory emerges: the possibility of a random attack or an act of revenge carried out by someone completely unknown to the family.
Okay, now that's where I get lost.
Yeah.
If there were no obvious motives among those close to the family, why would they even consider a random attack? It doesn't seem to fit the profile, especially with the meticulous planning and staging of the scene.
It's a natural avenue to explore in any investigation, especially one as baffling as this. The police have to consider all possibilities, no matter how unlikely. But in the case of the Chauhans, the targeted nature of the killings, the lack of robbery, or any other obvious criminal motive made a random attack seem highly improbable. It just didn't fit the pattern.
So we've got three main possibilities: a disgruntled business associate, someone close to the family, or a random act of revenge. And the police have hit dead ends on all three fronts. Where do they even go from there? It's like they're caught in a maze with no exit in sight.
You're right. It's a frustrating situation for any investigator to be in. It's at this point, with no clear leads and no obvious suspects, that the investigation takes a turn. The focus shifts from hard evidence to speculation and theories.
Ah, the realm of theories. It's always a double-edged sword, isn't it? On the one hand, it's where things can get really interesting, exploring all the possible scenarios. But on the other hand, it can lead to wild goose chases and dead ends. What were some of the most prominent theories that emerged in the Chauhan case?
There are three theories in particular that gained a lot of traction. Each one attempts to fill in the missing pieces of the puzzle, but they all raise more questions than they answer. We have the personal vendetta theory, the honor-killing theory, and the professional hit theory. Each one offers a unique perspective on the case, and we'll delve into each of them after we come back.
Sounds good. Stay tuned, folks.
All right, so we're back digging deeper into the Chauhan family murders, trying to figure out what happened. Before the break, we were talking about those theories that popped up when the hard evidence just wasn't there.
Yeah, it's always interesting how these unsolved cases, the fact that there isn't a clear answer makes people start to speculate. It's like we can't just accept that we don't know. So we try to fill in the blanks with theories no matter how out there they might seem.
I think it's a natural human response. We want things to make sense, especially when we're dealing with something as chaotic and as senseless as murder. So let's look at these theories and see if any of them hold up. You mentioned the personal vendetta theory. What's the thinking behind that one?
Well, it just seems like the easiest explanation, right? Someone, somewhere, had a reason to want to get back at the Chauhans. Maybe some old grudge, a betrayal, some simmering resentment that finally just boiled over into violence. I mean, it happens, right? People hold on to anger for years, waiting for that perfect moment to get their revenge.
It's true. Human history is filled with stories of vendettas that go on for generations. But the problem with that theory in the Chauhan case is the lack of evidence. Even after a thorough investigation, the police couldn't find anyone who had a clear motive for wanting to kill the Chauhans. No angry ex-employees, no jilted lovers, no one with a score to settle. It's like they were targeted out of nowhere with no clear enemy.
So no shadowy figures hiding in their past, waiting to strike. Okay, so that's one theory down. What about this honor-killing theory that people keep bringing up? It seems like a pretty serious accusation to make without solid proof.
It is a sensitive topic and one we need to approach carefully. As you know, honor killings usually come from a feeling that family honor or tradition has been violated. In some cultures, certain actions like romantic relationships outside marriage or disobeying family wishes can be seen as bringing shame on the family. And then violence is used to try to restore that honor.
I see. So in the Chauhan case, were people saying that someone in the family or their community felt like the Chauhans had dishonored them in some way, maybe something relating to their daughter, Preeti?
Exactly. That was something the police had to investigate no matter how difficult it was. Given how brutal the murders were, some people thought it might have been a punishment, a message sent to the family and the community. Rumors started about Preeti, maybe about a secret relationship or something else that might have been seen as unacceptable.
But you're saying none of these rumors were true.
Not at all. The police looked into this very thoroughly, interviewing friends, family, neighbors, anyone who might have known about Preeti's personal life. And they found absolutely nothing suggesting she was involved in anything that would cause such a reaction. It was pure speculation, fueled by gossip and a desire to find some explanation for a senseless act.
Okay, so we've ruled out a personal vendetta and an honor killing. What about the third theory, the one that sounds like something out of a movie The Professional hit? I have to admit, this is the one that makes me the most curious. It's just so calculated.
This theory definitely adds a whole new level of intrigue to the case. The idea is that maybe the Chauhans somehow crossed paths with a powerful and dangerous person, someone who wouldn't think twice about using violence to protect their interests or to silence anyone who might be a threat. We're talking about individuals who have the resources and the coldness to hire a professional killer.
Okay, so now we're talking about organized crime, shadowy figures, making things happen behind the scenes. Did the police find any connections between Kishore and any criminal groups? You would think a professional hit would leave some kind of trail.
You'd think so, right? But just like the other theories, the investigation came to a dead end. Even with all their efforts, the police couldn't find any real links between Kishore or his business and any known criminal organizations. There were no whispers about shady deals, no signs of blackmail, no reports of threats to the police. It was as if they were completely erased, leaving behind only unanswered questions.
So we are left with three possible theories, each one offering a potential explanation, but none of them giving us that aha moment, that piece of evidence that ties it all together. It's incredibly frustrating. We have a crime scene that screams premeditation and a motive that is a complete mystery.
It really shows how complex human nature can be and the limits of even the most thorough investigation. Sometimes even when we try our hardest, the truth remains elusive.
And what about the community? How did they react to having this unsolved mystery in their midst?
Just imagine living in a community where a seemingly ordinary family is brutally murdered in their home and the killers are never found. It creates fear, suspicion, and a deep sense of unease.
I can imagine it's like a dark cloud over the entire neighborhood.
Exactly. And in the Chauhan case, the impact on the community was huge. People became more careful, suspicious of strangers, even questioning those they thought they knew.
Did this fear and uncertainty ever go away?
To a degree, yes. Life does go on, but the memory of the Chauhan murder stayed with them. It became a warning, a reminder that even in places that seem safe and familiar, darkness can be found.
It's a haunting thought that sometimes terrible acts go unpunished, and the victims are denied justice.
And that's why this case continues to fascinate and frustrate us. We're left with so many unanswered questions. Who were the killers? What was their motive? Why the Chauhan family?
It's almost like the answers disappeared. No forced entries, no clear suspects, no definite motives. It's like trying to solve a puzzle where half the pieces are missing.
And that is what makes this a true unsolved mystery. It's a case that doesn't have easy answers, a case that stays with you long after you've heard the details.
It definitely does. The Chauhan family murders show us that even in a busy city like Mumbai, there are shadows where secrets hide and justice isn't always served.
And sometimes the most disturbing part of a case isn't the violence itself, but the lack of closure. The knowledge that someone somewhere got away with a terrible crime.
It's a thought that can keep you up at night. What happened to the rest of Kishore's family? How did they cope with this unimaginable loss?
It's hard to imagine the depth of their grief and the frustration of not knowing who was responsible or why this happened. Imagine carrying that burden year after year with no resolution in sight.
It's heartbreaking.
Mhm.
And it really shows how these unsolved crimes have a ripple effect. The impact goes way beyond the immediate victims. It affects families, friends, entire communities.
Absolutely. In the case of the Chauhans, the Santa Cruz neighborhood was changed forever. That sense of safety and security was shattered, replaced by a lingering fear and a heightened awareness of how fragile life is.
It's a sobering reminder that even in the most vibrant and bustling cities, darkness can find its way into the lives of ordinary people.
And that, I think, is one of the key takeaways from the Chauhan case. It makes us face the uncomfortable truth that we're not always in control, that random acts of violence can disrupt even the most peaceful existence.
It's a reminder to cherish the people we love, to appreciate the moments we have, and to never take our safety for granted.
Well said. And while we may never know the whole truth about the Chauhan family murders, their story is a powerful reminder of the importance of community compassion and the ongoing search for justice.
This case has definitely left a mark on me, and I imagine it's had a similar effect on our listeners. If you have any thoughts or theories about the Chauhan family murders, we encourage you to share them with us.
Maybe together we can shed some light on this confusing mystery. And remember, no detail is too small, no theory too strange.
That's right. Sometimes a new perspective is all it takes to solve a cold case. So keep those theories coming, and be sure to subscribe to CrimePod Castle for more deep dives into the world of unsolved mysteries. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.
Yeah, it's a thought that really sticks with you. The Chauhans, a family seemingly living a normal life and then suddenly taking a pot fan. And for what? We've looked at the theories, but the truth is still out there. What happened to the rest of Kishore's family? How do you even start to deal with a loss like that, especially when there are no answers?
It's a question that comes up with every unsolved case. We can discuss evidence and motives, but at the end of the day, these were real people whose lives were completely shattered.
Right.
For Kishore's family, there's the grief, which is unimaginable, but then on top of that, there's the frustration of not knowing who did it and why. These questions have to be going through their minds constantly.
It makes you realize just how far-reaching the impact of these crimes really is. It's not just the victims themselves, it's everyone around them.
It breaks down a community's feeling of safety and leaves a scar that takes a long time to heal.
Absolutely. In Santa Cruz, the Chauhan murders became this terrifying reminder that danger can be lurking even in the most ordinary places. That fear, that uncertainty, it just seeped into everything. Suddenly neighbors were looking at each other differently, wondering who they could trust.
Yeah, it's a harsh reminder that no matter how safe we think we are, there's always something we can't control. A vulnerability that we can never completely escape.
I think that's the most lasting impact of the Chauhan case. It forces us to face our own mortality, the fact that life is fragile. It makes us question what we think we know about safety and security, and reminds us that we're not always in control.
So where did that leave us? After all this analysis, after exploring all these possibilities, we still end up with this feeling of emptiness. No answers, no closure, just a big question mark.
And that's the essence of a true mystery, isn't it? It's not just about finding the person who did it. It's about understanding the why. When there are no clear answers, we're left struggling with the unknown, trying to find some meaning in the chaos.
But maybe, just maybe, if we keep these stories alive, by looking at the evidence again, by continuing to ask questions, maybe we can hold on to a little bit of hope.
Hope that one day, somehow, the truth will come out.
Right. Hope that justice, even if it's late, might still happen. And maybe by sharing these stories, we can learn from the past and try to create a future where these kinds of tragedies are less likely to happen.
That's a good point. The Chauhan family murders definitely show us the dark side of humanity. But they also show how much we need answers. Justice, meaning in a world that can often feel so senseless.
It's a case that will definitely stay with us. It makes us think, makes us analyze, and reminds us to never give up hope that the truth will be revealed someday.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe one of our listeners has that missing piece of the puzzle.
That would be incredible.
A detail, a memory, a connection that could finally solve this case.
So if you have any thoughts or theories about the Chauhan family murders, no matter how small or how strange they might seem, please share them with us.
You can find all the ways to contact CrimePod Castle on our website. We really want to hear from you.
Because sometimes all it takes is a fresh perspective, a new way of looking at things to see something that everyone else has missed. You might be the one to finally bring closure to this mystery.
That's right. Keep those theories coming. And if you want to explore more unsolved mysteries, make sure to subscribe to CrimePod Castle. We'll be back next week with another intriguing case that's sure to keep you captivated. Until then, stay curious and stay safe.